start thinking of a time that you did something that completely scared you, where you mustered up the courage, bit the bullet, and just gave it a try. I think it's safe to say that we've all done something, and it may not be a huge feat, but we've all done something that has once scared us. And if you might have had trouble thinking of something or nothing really comes to mind, I hope that by the end of my speech this evening that you will consider mustering up that courage and just giving it a try. The thought of skydiving always scared the pants off me. I would see my friends' videos online and random videos on YouTube and think to myself, that looks totally awesome. But if you ever got me up into a plane and then wanted me to jump out, no way, Jose. Surely I would cry, no, take me back down, I don't want to go, I changed my mind. But in the videos that I'd watched, everybody looked like they were having the time of their lives. It looked exhilarating and freeing. So it was always one of those things that I wanted to do just kind of so that I could say I had done it, but I didn't think that I would actually do it. My boyfriend of 5 years, Casey, has a passion for flying and apparently jumping out of planes, as he had been skydiving a couple of times before we met. And he would talk about how he wanted to do it again, but I think that in his eyes, I was never the one that he would do it with. So all of these years, I had been trying to talk myself into it, telling myself that eventually this would need to happen, I would do it eventually. Well, it all kind of came to fruition when my adopted grandfather, who was 92 at the time, sent an email out with a video of himself skydiving. Dude, if Grandpa Dan can do it, what the heck is my problem? So, a couple of months later for Christmas, I bought us a tandem skydiving package. This was happening. So, the day comes. It's April 18th. Casey and I are celebrating our 5-year anniversary. So we head down to Skydive San Diego, which is in Jamul, next to Otay Lake. And we finally get there, we head into the lobby to check in. What is the first thing they have you do? They have you watch a video that basically says, "You're gonna die." The video basically says, you are risking your life today by going skydiving. And by signing this waiver, you are acknowledging that you have absolutely no right to sue this company if anything bad happens to you. So this is basically the best scare tactic that I have ever encountered. My palms start sweating, but for the sake of my image, I maintain a cool facade, or at least I try to. Training time. So they call a group of us outside, and we're in a group of about, for a quick down and dirty training. We're in a group of about 10 people, and very loosely kind of standing together as we don't really know one another. It's still early in the morning, and we're probably all thinking to ourselves, what am I doing here? Scared out of our minds. And then this big, burly military badass of a dude comes over. He's probably jumped out of a plane about 400 times. So this is like easy peasy for him, no big deal. You're a bunch of wimps, but I'll try to talk you into this anyway. So he starts talking at the speed of light really quickly, telling us what we're going to do when we get up there and how we're going to need to do when we jump out. So he's like, you're going to get down on the floor. I'm sorry. You're going to be holding onto your straps. You're going to jump out, and you have to quickly get into this position where you're arched all the way back and your legs have to come to a 90 degree. Going through this really quickly. And so I jump on the floor, and I'm giving it a try, and I mess it up. And I'm thinking this is going to be an absolute disaster. I'm going to screw this up. It's going to be terrible. But I try to laugh it off. And I keep telling myself that it's going to be great, it's going to be great, and that becomes my motto for the next 20 minutes. So all strapped in, we walk across the airfield onto the plane, and we take off. And almost before I know it, we're at 10,000 feet, our jumping altitude. Now I was the only nerd who decided to pay for a video of my skydiving experience, so I was designated to go last. This just means that I got to revel in everyone else's excitement and terror before I jumped. But meanwhile, this smile had taken over my face. It's like my nervousness had jumped out of the plane before I could. I was so excited. So we walk out. We waddle over to the edge of the door. I take a second to look down at my potential death, 10,000 feet below me. And we jump. And for the next 20 seconds, we're in free fall. Shh. Now, I'm not very good with words, So I can't even begin to describe how exhilarating that was. But looking back, the free fall experience was the best part of the skydiving. And then the parachute opens. And for the next 3 or so minutes, I have a bird's eye view of downtown San Diego. We're soaring. I see downtown Tijuana, the magnificent Pacific Ocean, and the beautiful surrounding areas. It was absolutely breathtaking. Very different than flying on a plane, because I had a 360 unobstructed view of San Diego. It was beautiful. Only something that you might be able to experience by perhaps jumping out of a plane yourself. I had done it. I did it. We landed, and I even managed to mess up the landing. We did some tripping and some butt falling, but I didn't care. I was on cloud 9. That was so incredibly awesome. I loved it so much that I even went home and started looking into potentially becoming an instructor, so that I could relive that experience over and over and over again. So afterwards, Casey and I headed for a brunch at Truck Stop and PB. And then we walked around the San Diego Zoo, which we wholeheartedly love doing, and ended the day with a mouth-watering steak at Fleming's. It was a fantastic day, probably one of the best days that I have ever had. But do you know what my favorite part of the day was? Absolutely falling in love with something that had once scared the pants off me. I urge you all to give it a try.